Welcome back to Drift Garage. On the last episode we made...
Watch this turd. It looks like a blow motor.
Park.
Rip this hunk of crap out. Let's get to it, man.
On this episode we're going to... Where's Tuerck? What you thinking about, bud?
Just drift garage stuff, I guess.
That's cool. So you want to go build a drift car?
Nah. First things first, we are replacing this blown motor that probably has a massive hole in the side of the piston. Me and Danny here are taking care of the top. Chris is working on the bottom, finding a lot of things that I see wrong that are going to get redone when we put the new motor in, so I'm just trying to take mental notes of that kind of stuff before it does come out. Besides that, everything seems to be coming off pretty easily so far, so we should have this thing out in the next 30 minutes or so.
The guy's got the top half handled, so under here I always start with getting the fluids draining first, because those take a while. You want to make sure you get as much of it out, so by the time you're pulling the motor out and it's tilting and turning, you know, all that excess fluid isn't making a mess in your garage. Just dropping exhaust, dropping drive shaft, gonna start unbolting the transmission mounts and loosen up the engine mounts and get this thing ready to pull.
Chris, drain pan up here. The hardest part about pulling the engine out, I guess the pain in the ass stuff is the really tight areas, or if you slip the wrench on a nut or a bolt and crush your knuckles into something. That's usually the crappy thing about pulling an engine out. As far as it being difficult, it's really not that difficult, it's just time consuming.
Yeah, it appears like someone ordered the wrong drive shaft, because it won't pop out. It's a little too long. I can't get it past the pinion snout to get it out of the car. So, looks like it'll just have to fall out later. Take it out of gear. I'm also going to be throwing some sweet parts on this classic 510 wagon. We're going to be modernizing this car with a custom front end that has coilovers and air cups to adjust the ride height. And of course, we're going to be adding an air compressor end tank to the rear of the car to adjust that ride height. We're going to throw all these sloppy bushings away and replace them with adjustable control arms. These brakes are totally shot, so we're going to be doing disc brakes all around. We're going to hop inside with some reclinable seats and also a brand new stereo. And no build is complete without a fresh set of wheels and tires. With some setups, I find it easier to remove the transmission from the engine underneath the car and then pull the engine straight up and out. That way you're not fighting the transmission against the tunnel and the bottom of the oil pan against the cowl of the front end of the car. Some people may think it's a little more difficult to do it this way, but I think it's just as fast and makes it a lot easier to get the engine out.
So, on a lot of the Transits, instead of putting all the bolts all the way to the top, leave the two top bolts out that are really hard to get, and then just do the rest. At the track, if you run into an issue and you have to pull your transmission, change it, or change a clutch or whatever, two bolts that are all the way at the top are always super difficult, and half the time you have to loosen engine mounts and sometimes the subframe to drop the engine down far enough and tilt the engine back far enough to be able to get, you know, a socket setup up in there. Maybe check in, nut and bolt your car a little more often, make sure that the other trans bolts are tight. So we're going to use the double wrench technique. I know we showed this previously, so this is a perfect thing to be able to get this transmission bolt out. Is basically just creating more leverage on the wrench to get this super tight bolt out of the trans case. If I can fit it in here in this tight spot. Just going to give it the old double wrench. Nice work, Forsberg. Lower it. Coming down.
Got it. There it is.
Well, the tranny's out, so we're gonna set up the engine crane and motor's ready to come out. So one thing that could be overlooked that's really smart to be able to take your time with is to make sure that you pull your engine and hoist it out of here in the right location. I mean, as Drift Idiot has clearly showed us, there is a right way and a wrong way, and he has done it the wrong way. Power steering's disconnected, intercooler off, radiator out, you know, all the detail stuff. So this thing's hopefully ready to just pull up and swing out of here.
Give it the old jack attack, man.
We are coming loose. We're gonna make it! Oh yeah!
All right. Slide around. Knock it out. Woo! And that is how it's done. I think the transmission out first and engine up was pretty good.
First time I've done that. It's definitely a good move.
Yeah, especially if you're in a tight space like this, you got to try and feed that thing out, the transmission on there, you're dumping fluid everywhere. So that worked out pretty good. And the idiot left one of the engine mount bolts out, so that saved us a little bit of time, you know. So
yeah. So since we're getting a barrel long block, we have to take the exhaust manifold, intake manifold, and a lot of the other parts off of this engine to put onto the new engine.
Yeah, but a lot of those accessories are still in good shape on this motor, you know. Idiot melted a piston, so we're gonna, you know, recycle some of these parts, upgrade the rest, and pretty sure you all want to see what a melted piston looks like, right?
Yep.
Well, the engine's out, but now where do we get a new one?
A couple of Nissan SR20s that pull a premium a week before Drift Garage. Well, we got the engine out of the car. It wasn't too bad.
Sure did.
Me and Chris have done this, I don't know how many times, countless.
Too many.
And nothing was too hard, everything was pretty simple. Chris had the good idea of dropping a tranny before we pull the engine out of the engine bay, which was a lot of help. He had to take the transmission off, so that was sweet for me.
Yeah, well, because if I have the idea, I gotta kind of see it through, so. And the other thing I noticed when I was down there was those transmission bolts were a little too tight.
They're pretty tight, dude.
It's almost as if an idiot really just cranked them on there with a impact gun.
With an impact until they're about to strip out the engine.
Transmission's not gonna fall out, man. It's all good. There's like 15 bolts down there. Yeah, like one of the things that Ryan mentioned is you actually don't need to put all of the bolts back in. I mean, it is recommended, but you can leave a couple of them out, especially those hard to get ones up at the top, so that if you are doing trackside repair, you can access all those bolts a lot easier.
So this motor has a hole in a piston, or what we are hoping has a hole in a piston, so we can show you guys.
I don't know if we're hoping, but I think that's what's going on.
Well, I mean, regardless, it has
It's
zero
dead.
compression in one cylinder and 90 in the rest. So it overboosted and didn't have enough fuel in the cylinders and melted something. This is going to get replaced with a long block, and what a long block is a new engine from oil pan to valve cover, but doesn't have any accessories on it, so no manifolds, intake and exhaust.
Alternator, power steering.
Exactly.
All those things. So we'll be salvaging those pieces off of this engine because obviously they're in good shape, since it was just a melted piston and not anything actually like a rod knock or anything oil related. When that happens, you really got to be careful about reusing certain parts. If you have an oil cooler, throw it out. Don't reuse that. Since we're just going to be using intake manifold and alternators, power steering pumps and that, just give them a good wipe down, clean them up, and you can swap them over.
So this actually saves us a bunch of money doing the long block. It is a lot more work, obviously, stripping this engine down with the parts that we need and bolting them back up, and new gaskets and everything else. But it is cost effective and will save money. And also at that same time, you can kind of go through everything and replace all of the semi-broken old hoses that are 20 to 30 years old and make sure that you're good to go and gonna have a good race season.
Thanks for watching, and if you got any questions about how to prep your engine for a swap,
or any questions at all, leave them in the comments below. Also, tell us about your dream engine swap. I already got mine.